Welcome back to Bending the Narrative. Each week, we dive into Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender live action series, and while you can find our overall thoughts on the season in our first episode, throughout book one, we will be discussing in further detail how each episode compares to its live action counterpart. Since very few elements from this episode make it into the live action adaptation, we're going to discuss the consequences of this and how it affects both versions of the series. Kate, let's start with you.
I mean, there's not much adaptation. I don't think any of this, none of
None,
this makes it
none
in
of
at
it
all.
really.
Yeah, not even
Yeah,
like little bits of it. Which
they just
I
like
think this is the one where I'm like, that's fair. We can do without. And
yeah.
that's why I think some people call it filler, but because it adds definitely to the characterization. We get some good things from it, but I
Mhm.
don't think much would change if we didn't have this episode. If this episode was withheld, we wouldn't, I think, nothing,
The
not
the overall narrative stays
the
the
overall
same.
narrative stays the same. Nothing would change that much.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's
we'd miss much.
this is tough for me because I love this episode a
I know
lot
you love
now.
this episode.
I've become a big defender overnight, right? But it's yeah, I mean, it goes back into the like the not everything needs to be directly plot related to like be there thing, and why I
Hmm.
think that it's justified that it's here in the animated version. I do agree though that if you are gonna have to cut something for time, which we've already established, they didn't need to cut anything for time because the season is longer than the
Hmm.
book. But anyways,
Hmm.
if you're gonna make the decision to cut some stuff, I get cutting this one because yeah, narratively and plot wise, you can axe it and nothing like you don't if you're doing a rewatch of the show, you could skip this episode and you would be missing nothing. Like
Yeah, you
it
would be
works
okay.
still. Everything is fine. Nothing I don't believe gets called back to except the joke that they make in the I'm blanking on the episode name that you just mentioned earlier, but the play whenever they're
Oh,
talking about how did I already forget this? We literally were
that,
talking about it like
no, wait,
5 minutes
just
ago.
because you forgot it, now I forgot it. Ember Island
um,
players, Ember Island players. I
yes,
want to
that
think
one.
the bending players. I was like, no.
But yeah, I mean, aside from that little joke, like, and even the little joke is talking about the fact that you don't need it,
That you
right?
don't need it, that they
Like,
just skip right over it,
yeah.
which is
So like,
hilarious. Like they do make fun of themselves and they are like, they could have just flown over this. Yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, you could logistically cut this one, but
Mhm.
I will argue the thing that you lose here, which is a very important part of the Avatar thematically and from a character perspective, and this goes for Aang, but also like the position of being the Avatar, is that it does emphasize the importance of like the politics side of being the Avatar and like needing to be able to negotiate peace amongst peoples and like
Mhm.
building and developing that skill. Like that's an important thing for him. And you can cut that, I think, because you do get that in a bunch of the
In a
other
bunch of other
episodes
ways, yeah,
anyways.
we
Like
still get that.
this is just further emphasis on it. So like it's not needed technically, but like damn, I love it a lot. Like it's really good. I think I also love it a lot because like it emphasizes that, but then it also I think says a lot of important stuff about the like negative effects of tribalism in the sense of
Mm.
like just consistent like thinking and like not wanting to listen to anything from the outside and
Anything else, yeah.
yeah, and just like being stuck in your ways and how that will perpetuate itself and that how that can
And
be a
how
negative
pointless
thing.
it is and how it leads to danger and how it
Yeah. And like people putting
affects
themselves
communities. Mhm.
in these situations that they don't need to be in that's
Mhm.
detrimental to everyone for no reason really
It's two
and
groups
for
that are refugees who have lost their
yeah
homes due to the Fire Nation and are trying to get to safety, and this problem still prevails. Like, this still
yeah
stops them from working together.
yeah and so like I love that it does shine a spotlight on that. I also like that it even though Eng's story about what the solution is a lie, it's an example of how easy it is for stories to become muddled over time. Like the further
Mhm.
removed you get from an event, but it's a long game of telephone, right? Like
Yeah. Which I
and
do actually think, like, that also makes it why the lie is kind of, uh, because
yeah
you are like, "Oh, this is a thing that happens where something simple happens and then the story gets exaggerated more and more over
hmm
time."
yeah,
And,
like
like,
each
that isn't like
generation adds more like well, actually, this dude, like, whenever he
Actually,
fell, he
he
like
did it.
punched him in the face. That's not what they
Yeah.
say, but you know, like,
Yeah, they like
like,
add more to it and they make it
mhm,
worse and worse, like how rumors
yeah,
spread and everything, and how people just add more and more and make it crazier and crazier.
yeah.
Um,
It's
but so
like
when we figure
taking,
out a lie, we're like, oh, so did that really happen? Is that really the true
yeah,
story? It
that
like,
does.
what is the real story then?
I was gonna mention
Maybe
that, like,
that's why.
I'm like, I
Back to the
do
lie.
I do want to know what the actual like what actually happened, because obviously it's got to be something in
Yeah.
between the two sides, like the two extremes, because they clearly like have added on to it forever, but it's like we don't know.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, I guess I do kind of like that they just leave that mystery, like we don't know exactly
Mhm.
what happened and
Like we
like
don't need to
why.
know. Mhm.
Yeah, which is good, and like that works. But yeah, I do like that it's an example of like how dangerous that can be and how easily that can happen, and the fact that like over
Mhm.
time and on a long enough like time span, things
It could
will
cause a
get
war.
yeah, will get exaggerated. It will lead to all of these negatives from something very simple, just because people aren't willing to listen, or people are like so
Mhm.
stuck in their ways and things like that. And so I think that yeah, on the whole, it doesn't really impact the overall negative or the narrative if you axe this, but like there's a lot of stuff in here that like I personally I'm
But
like, "Ah," like
still,
I love
it's
those ideas
good.
so much, and like they're very important things, I think. And so the fact that we
Mhm.
do have an episode that spends the time to like emphasize those things is really cool. And also I love the designs of the characters a lot. So
That
so
is
seeing
true.
those
Of
so
all
seeing
of
those was
the
rad.
yeah, of all of the both communities, the
Hmm.
bender, the earthbender
Oh
guy,
yeah, he does have a pretty cool design. I like
he's
he's
so
pretty
cute.
unique.
He's just a little old man.
Yeah, and he's got his like straw hat. It's
I
pretty
do
cool.
like how funny he is. Like I
But
love how at the end, I don't think we talked about this. He was like, "I'm going with them. I'm never going back to this cave
oh yeah,
again."
he was like,
Or
I'm
this
done. I'm
not
over it.
cave.
Like
Yeah,
the canyon.
this damn canyon again. He's so over it.
Yeah,
Did I
which I
write
mean,
down what he said? It's so funny.
justifiably so, because dude just got both of his arms broken.
Like he got his ass beat, so
Yeah,
it's good he
but
got out of there.
there's not
But yeah, so
there's
it
not that
missing from
much.
the live action is not the end of the world. And actually, the one thing where I'm like, yeah, you didn't need this. You
It's
were okay
fine, I
without.
guess. I
We didn't
guess.
need to reference it. We didn't need to have it in.
It honestly, actually, I just now convinced myself to be happy that it's not in live action, because it probably just would piss me off. So,
I would have been like, why
so
did you need that?
they would have missed the point
It
completely,
would
I'm
have pissed
sure,
me off.
somehow.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, actually I'm glad it's not there. It's good. We're good.
Or
It's fine.
I'm happy it wasn't even referenced. Nobody was like, oh,
What about
remember
yeah,
the Ganjins and the Zhangs? Remember
it's fine.
that?
I'm glad
Yeah.
they just were like,
Or
no, it's
actually, you
okay.
know what? Stop touching it.
Yeah.
Stop touching my
Animated,
show.
I'll just rewatch the episode. It's fine.
I'll just rewatch the episode. How about that?
Acceptable omission. Good job, Netflix. You got one
Yeah.
point.
One
The
one
point was them
out
leaving
of
something
a
alone.
thousand. Yeah, it was like not doing something, which was
Yeah.
great.
Their inaction was fantastic here. Thanks so
They're in
much.
action. Hey, Aspect listener. Enjoying the show?
Then be sure to subscribe here on The Aspect so you never miss an episode.
And check out more episodes and clips on our playlist here.
Thanks so much for watching, and
Lamio Hot Man.